Hello, everyone. Welcome to part 2 of my interview with the steamy romance author, Kelsey Swanson. Hey! I have to be truthful. We are here again today for part 2 because I forgot to push record last time after our short intermission. So, you know who will be doing that again? Lesson learned. So, thank you so much for coming again and for your time and for sharing your smile with us. We were talking about your new release, and it's already released now. It released on April 2nd. And the title of the book is Loving Mister Stratford. And it's book 3 of your Stratford Family Series. Where do you find your inspiration?
Um, Honestly, because it was 8 years ago now, I think. If you remember what that initial inspiration was, but a lot of my other story inspiration comes from music. So I'll hear a song that kind of sparks something. And but as far as kind of like I said earlier, it's from wanting to fill a gap in my own reading material. I wanted you see the quirky female lead, you see the shy one, you see, the really driven ones, but you don't really see many that have um a weakness like agoraphobia, things
Right.
like that. So that was initially what I wanted to do with Lily. And then hers is a friends to lovers story with her brother's best friend.
Yummy, yummy, yum.
So yes, but he's loved her forever too, but he never thought he was good enough for her. So he was willing to let her be married off to somebody else. And neither of them said anything. Neither of them said that they felt a certain way until someone else had already proposed and her parents accepted on her behalf.
Okay,
So
I gotta interrupt for a second. If anybody is hesitating about their crush, the worst thing you can do is to not express yourself. You're gonna go for it. If it's about love, express it. As long as you're not hurting anyone. I gotta make that. Yeah.
a disclaimer.
I mean, yeah, don't express your love to your girlfriend if you have a wife. That sort of thing. Yeah. Anyways, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
So it's a little bit more complex than what you would see as, the typical friends to lovers or the brother's best friend or best friend's younger sister. Because the man who did propose to Lily is very absent. He just basically wants her as a broodmare. Now, Jeremy sees this as his opportunity. Yeah, he sees this as his opportunity to step up and say, I'll help you plan the wedding.
Okay, that's another thing you don't see, or in any like in any romance, really.
Because he knows that she's stepped on a lot by her family. They don't care that she's afraid of being in crowds. They see it as she's dramatic.
That's true.
He's always been her protector, so he wants to be her voice.
Oh.
And this is the last chance he has to be her voice. What he doesn't take into account is that Lily's going to take her last chance to get what she wants before she's thrown into this loveless marriage too.
That's
So
moving. It's often the small things, the small gestures.
I'll help you plan the wedding.
Okay, that's another thing you don't see, or in any like in any romance, really.
Because he knows that she's stepped on a lot by her family. They don't care that she's afraid of being in crowds. They see it as she's dramatic.
That's true.
So he's always been her protector. So he wants to be her voice.
Oh.
And this is the last chance he has to be her voice.
That is unique and extremely touching. And
Thank you.
So, I gotta read this now. You gotta read this. Buy Kelsey's books on Amazon. Buy all 3. You gotta have all 3. Now, I'm noticing that all your books deal with mental health to a degree.
They kind of do, actually. That's not a trend that I noticed, really. Well, that I think a lot of it is a lot of mental anguish, in one form or another.
Yeah.
Um, in book 3, like we experience George's wife, Meredith, his love interest from book 2, which I don't think is giving it away because we know they get happily ever after. Um, but it's she goes through fertility struggles.
Oh,
So, and we see that in book 3, which is something that I relate to. So I think I just put a lot of personal issues. I think that it's very powerful to put issues that people can relate to in their books. So I think that I think it was very important for me to put in Meredith's struggle as someone who, has been through that. So I think that, just another aspect of it.
Well, your stories are an excellent sort of balance between reality and the fantasy, our ideal world, right? So you deal with, everyday struggles of people, of our readers, authors, everyone else. And yeah, mental health issues are something that we all struggle with, from to one degree or another. And yet afraid to talk about, or don't often have people that can relate to us. So to see that in a book, and have happily ever after, and have a support group within the book that understand the characters, and to find love, I mean, that's got to be cathartic for some people.
It's definitely cathartic to write it, I think.
Yeah.
But kind of along that, I think that that's part of the reason that I've seen my books characterized as darker. Not because there is necessarily something horrible constantly happening to them, or at least what I think of when I hear dark, or twisty or whatever. I think it's because I address these issues in a very straightforward manner, and I think that it makes people feel. So I find that interesting that because something makes you feel, it's characterized as dark. So I think that's interesting. I mean, not everyone categorizes that, but I've seen that especially with George's book because he didn't have an addiction problem. I don't characterize myself that way.
No.
But to see that from readers, it's very interesting. It's not necessarily that they disliked it because it's dark. I think they just kind of went into it expecting, a lighthearted historical romance, and it's just not that.
Yeah, it's not a fluff. It's not Barbie land.
Whereas there's Andy Quatson, there's angst in every one of my books. I love writing angst.
Yeah. I mean, life is dark, so if you are expecting only, if you think any kind of mental struggle is dark, then maybe you grew up in a bubble. I don't know. I don't know you, so I'm not going to judge, and yet I am. I know I'm sounding very judgmental, but and talking to the camera right now. But yeah, like you said, just because something has a dark theme, which I love, by the way, because for me, if you don't have a dark underlying theme, then you don't get that, very highs and very lows, right? The contrast.
Exactly.
The more you suffer, the happier you're capable of. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's why I love dark theme, because it doesn't mean it has to be all doom and gloom. It can have lighter moments. It can have light banters. So
I do a lot of that.
Excellent. Yeah, I love sense of humor in a book because, again, you get the dark, and then you get the laughter, and then, the comic relief breaks the tension, and I'm crying and I'm laughing and I'm hugging everyone, and then there's love in the air.
Absolutely. Like in book 1, George is the comic relief in that one. And so then he goes from being the comic relief in book 1 to being just the flick. But that doesn't necessarily mean that because it deals with these heavier things that there is no humor anymore.
Yeah.
There's humor in all 3 of the books. There's funny situations, there's funny observations and comments and banter, and because that's how life is. It's, you can laugh even when it's dark. Not always.
Well, yeah. And, it's our ability to laugh at these tragic situations, and that help us heal and grow. So in a way, I don't know how much of it comes from your own suffering, in your childhood. And I'm sure there was a lot of mental anguish in your childhood. But, the fact that you went through that and you're able to laugh now and run marathon. All right. So tell me, what were some of the challenges you had when you were writing these novels, or this, any other novels, or this one particular one?
I think Specifically, I had to do a lot of medical research for George's for his injury. Um, I had someone reading me about a medical background, so that helped. I tried to stay true to medicine of the time because, there's not physical therapy and surgery and, things like that. So I tried to kind of work within the constraints of the period.
Mhm.
And that was difficult. I think that's why George's story took so much longer.
Mhm.
But then Simon's was also a challenge because I wanted to be respectful of neurodivergence.
Mhm.
I didn't want to pigeonhole him. I didn't want to stereotype him. He is a little bit Sheldon Cooper. He's a little from Big Bang Theory. He's a little bit Benedict Cumberbatch's Sherlock. But he's himself too. I tried to bring, things that people recognize.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of actual research went into that and kind of pulling from experiences and talking to other people. And, there's no cookie cutter way to define neurodivergence. You have to be respectful. So I think that was hard. And I hope that people recognized how hard it was and how much I tried to respect it.
I mean, I can completely understand that because a lot of the times neurodivergent characters, like on TV, are sort of portrayed as the comic relief. But they have some of the, endearing traits that we all love and recognize. So to take those qualities and form a complete human being that we can relate to, who also recognizes flaws and fall in love and, try to fight his own demons and etc. I mean, where do you begin? So,
right. It's like you can't set out with the intent that he's got to be cured of something.
Right.
This is who he is. This is the person he is. It's all about growing and developing, and people learning to appreciate him for who he is, and then him finding this sense of acceptance for the first time in his life. Yeah. So that was kind of what I was going for here, with Simon. That he was not your typical male lead, but that didn't mean that he was any less sexy. I actually think his book is the spiciest of the ones that I have published.
Oh, have something to do with his obsession?
Yes, there is something that is fascinating to him. He learns how to do it well.
Good man.
Right.
Gotta get the book, guys. Learn a few things. She did all the research for you. Go get it. You don't need Kama Sutra. You need this book. Loving Mister Stratford. Yeah, just copy what he's doing.
Exactly.
So the fact that you have these characters that are imperfect, but still attractive and still, have endearing qualities, it sort of, I guess, emphasizes the bond between the main characters, right? Because if you're an asshole, it's love you. So if you're an asshole and you have a significant other, thank them extra, because for me to love a prince who's good looking and charming and intelligent and has a six-pack and no hairy chest or ass or back, I mean, I'll be like, oh, thank you for loving me back. Like it's easy to love those people. But if you have an imperfect character with hairy chest and ass and back,
just that.
Yeah, just that. It's harder. So not all love is equal. Okay? If you're an asshole, do something nice for your partners.
Yes.
So it goes to show how your characters, none of them are assholes. Maybe George at the beginning.
George kind of is. Yeah, he kind of is in book 2.
Really,
he has a woman who puts him in his place.
Excellent.
So
excellent. Yeah, that's important too. The tough love. Easy love.
Yes.
Anybody can do easy love. Preaching again. Whoops. All right. Yeah, it goes to show the bond, between your characters, which I think is really special. Now, you mentioned Dragon Blade and that you are not going to be writing another Stratford family book.
In the same universe.
Okay.
What has been signed with them is actually very different. It is a spy series. So it's in the same world as the Stratford family. But I do know about their stuff in the meantime.
Oh, then what
tied you over?
Okay.
So I am doing a spin-off on my own of from the Stratford family. So we meet a physician in book 2, and he makes an appearance in book 3, and everyone seemed to agree that they loved him so much that he deserved his own book. And so he has his own story. So it's in the Stratford family universe, but he's not a sibling, so he's technically not part of the Stratford family.
Right.
So he's this Scottish physician, and he makes a very scandalous bargain with the sheltered twin sister of an earl.
Is there gonna be threesome in this?
No, no,
Different book.
but yeah. So she's very sheltered. She has not. Her brother. She was very sick when she was younger, and her brother took a very reactionary stance on it. He's like, you can't go out alone. You can't overexert yourself. Like, this is how it's gonna be.
Oh, so it's an autobiography.
Right, kind of. So she somehow winds up meeting this doctor, Dr. Ian McCullum, and they are mutually attracted to each other. And she's like, look, I haven't had much of a life, so we kind of like each other. Why don't we start something? So there's more to it than that, but that's the basic premise of that one.
Yeah.
And then I do have a small novella coming out. I'm part of a curvy heroine collaboration with 11 other authors. Some of them are from historical Hoydens. So all of the female leads are curvy.
Excellent.
Yeah, and at least one of them, and we might have some curvy heroes too, or non-traditional stories.
So you better join Teas and Tarts on Facebook.
Tea and Tarts.
Tea and Tarts.
Obviously, historical Hoydens. I actually feel like I'm more on historical Hoydens than I am Tea and Tarts, honestly. I love interacting with all you ladies. You guys are just wonderful. And
I know.
It is so much fun on there.
Yeah, I know. We're so awesome.
I really love the community that is kind of blooming and blossoming.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, such a lonely, craft, right? Living in our own heads, so it's it's great to great to have others to bounce off ideas of.
And I know, at least myself, I'm such an introvert that face-to-face conversations are terrifying. But put me on a keyboard and I have fun. I enjoy people, and I can lurk and scroll.
Well, Kelsey, it was so nice chatting with you and getting to know you. You are a gem, and get off my screen so I can start reading your book.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful.
We'll talk to you again soon. Hey, bye.
Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
You too. Bye.